I gave my ungrateful brother a place to live. He tried to snatch my dead daughter's room by redecorating it while I was away. I kicked him out. My parents are on his side and calling me heartless. AITA? So this is still pretty fresh, and I'm absolutely fuming. For context, I, 38F, lost my daughter 2 years ago in a car accident. She was only 14, and ever since that day, I've kept her room exactly as she left it. I don't go in there often, but just knowing that it's there, untouched, brings me comfort. It's like having a piece of her still with me. Her posters, her art supplies, her clothes, all of it is still there. I can't bring myself to change it. Now, fast forward to a few months ago. My brother, 34M, and his new wife, 29F, had some financial issues after blowing a ton of money on a ridiculous, extravagant wedding. They asked if they could stay with me while they saved up for a place. Even though I wasn't thrilled about it, I agreed because, well, family, right? At first, things were fine, until recently. I noticed my sister-in-law making comments about how I shouldn't keep a shrine and how it's time to move on. I ignored her because, frankly, it's none of her damn business how I grieve my child. My brother mostly stayed quiet, but I could tell she was getting into his ear. Anyway, I came home from work last week to a literal nightmare. I walked into my daughter's room, and I kid you not, they had taken down all her posters, boxed up her stuff, and had started repainting the walls a hideous beige. They had moved in a bunch of generic furniture, hung up new curtains, and were apparently turning it into a guest room. I lost it, screaming, crying, the whole thing. I asked them what the hell they were thinking, and their response? My sister-in-law had the nerve to tell me they did it as a favor to help me move on, because it was unhealthy for me to keep the room as it was. I was shaking with rage. I told them to pack their stuff and get the hell out of my house immediately. My brother tried to calm me down, saying they meant well and were only trying to help me let go. He even tried to make me feel guilty by saying they had nowhere else to go right now, as if that would make me suddenly forgive them for destroying the last piece of my daughter I had left. I told them I didn't care and that they had crossed an unforgivable line. Now, my whole family is divided. My parents think I overreacted and say I'm being heartless for kicking them out. They keep saying they were just trying to help, they didn't mean any harm, and that I'm being too harsh because people grieve differently. They're even suggesting I apologize and let them move back in. My brother is still texting me, asking me to reconsider, saying they're in a tough spot, but all I see when I look at him is betrayal. So, AITA for kicking them out and refusing to even consider letting them back in after what they did? My sister wanted me to be her surrogate. I said I was infertile as I wasn't interested. She got divorced because of it. Now that I'm pregnant, she's flipping out. AITA 3 years ago, my sister Anna, she was 29 at the time, now 32, had been struggling with infertility for years. I was 26 then, and married, but my husband and I wanted to wait before having kids so we could focus on our careers and establish ourselves. Anna kept asking me to be her surrogate, and no matter how many times I politely declined, she just wouldn't take no for an answer. I explained that I wasn't ready for children myself, that I wasn't comfortable with being pregnant for someone else, and that I didn't think I could handle the emotional and physical stress that comes with surrogacy. But Anna would always counter my reasons, saying that I was her only hope and would often guilt-trip me about how much she wanted a baby and how great of an aunt I'd be. The pressure got to be too much. During a family gathering, she brought it up again, in front of everyone, which made me feel trapped and humiliated. I was tired of my boundaries being ignored, so I told her, I can't be your surrogate, Anna, because I'm infertile myself. That wasn't true, as far as I knew. I just wanted her to stop asking. Anna looked shocked and was devastated. After that, she wouldn't talk to me, and eventually, she and her husband got divorced because they couldn't agree on how to move forward with her infertility. Now, 3 years later, I'm 29 and currently pregnant with my first child. When I told Anna about the pregnancy, she completely freaked out. She's been accusing me of betraying her, calling me a liar, and even saying I ruined her marriage. She's been acting irrational and angry towards me ever since, and it's causing a lot of tension within the family. I feel guilty about lying, and I never imagined things would go this far. I only wanted her to respect my boundaries, but now it seems like I may have seriously hurt her life. AITA for telling my sister I was infertile just to get her to stop asking me to be her surrogate? My good-for-nothing husband doesn't help me at chores after I gave birth, so I canceled everything he feels good about and used the money to hire a nanny. AITA. My 28F and my husband, 30M, just welcomed our first baby almost 3 months ago. Understandably, it has been a huge adjustment for both of us. She's still not sleeping through the night and we're both back to work full-time. We have always split the household responsibilities 50-50. We just help where needed, and it's always worked out well. Lately, my husband has been doing the chores terribly, and I've had to come behind him to fix things or clean them again. For example, he cleaned the bottles the other night and they were cleaned so poorly I had to do them again. He dropped pump parts down the disposal and then ran it, ruining them. There have been several clothes that he didn't clean after a blowout that are now ruined. There are many more instances like this. I've confronted him a few times, letting him know we all make mistakes, and I know we're both tired, but it feels like he's not even trying to do things well. He just keeps saying he's so tired, and is having a hard time working and taking care of the house and baby. I do sympathize with this, as I'm also working, pumping, recovering, and taking care of the house and baby. The final straw for me was when he told me to go to sleep and he'd put up the milk I'd just pumped and finished the dishes. I was so grateful until I got up and realized the milk had been sitting on the counter and at this point was no good anymore. He said he was sorry, and he put on a show to relax for a bit before doing the dishes and fell asleep. The next day I decided to cancel all of our streaming services, PlayStation Plus, and our theme park passes in order to hire a housekeeper. I figured if he's too tired to do basic household chores, then a housekeeper is necessary. If he's too tired to put milk up, then he's too tired to play video games or for us to go to a theme park. We still have cable in the PlayStation games and can do other activities outside of the local theme park. He blew up at me and said I had no right doing that and was furious. I thought I was doing us a favor so we can get more sleep and not worry as much about household tasks. So AITAH for hiring a housekeeper without asking. Edit to add, I see a lot of comments about communication. I have been communicating nonstop about my needs and my expectations. I've let a lot of mistakes slide because I know this is hard for both of us. But when it became a daily thing, I let him know if he's unable to do his part, then I need additional help. I mentioned hiring some help, and he laughed and said, "What a ridiculous waste of money." I knew if I asked again, the answer would be no, so I made the decision for both of us. Also, I didn't throw away the TV or PlayStation. I just canceled our subscriptions for them. We were paying around $100 between the two. Our internet includes a handful of cable channels and Peacock, and we have plenty of PlayStation games that we can still play. We both play video games and watch TV. I probably watch more on streaming, so canceling them affects both of us. Housekeeping is $300 a month, and everything I canceled, including Disney passes, is about $230, so it won't be as much of a financial burden. Plus, it will save more money as well, since I won't have to replace destroyed pump parts, clothes, and breast milk. My father gave me $75,000 for wedding ceremony. I'm using it to pay off my debts. My hypocrite mother-in-law wants me to spend the entire money on a lavish wedding. She eloped herself and didn't invite anyone. AITA for refusing and not inviting her to wedding? 29F here. I recently got engaged to my fiancé Ryan, 30 million. He was actually my high school sweetheart, but we broke up during college and have been back together for the past 7 years. Some context is that I am the youngest of 3 girls. My parents are both doctors, and they have done quite well for themselves. I think my future in-laws think they're much wealthier than they actually are. Most of their money has gone into mine and my sister's educations, and so they still have to think about money and how much they're spending. My parents were kind enough to pay for my private college, but I had to cover law school on my own. I still have close to $100,000 to pay off. I make good money now and will be able to pay it off on my own. But also, Ryan and I want to buy a house and have children, and so the debt is stressful. Also, a sizable percent of my salary for the past several years has gone towards paying off my debt. My dad pulled me aside when I got engaged and told me that he set aside $75,000 for each of his daughters for weddings. My oldest sister had a huge, fancy wedding and spent most of the money on a ceremony. My other sister had a modest wedding and put the rest of the money towards a down payment on a house. My dad basically said the money is mine to do what I want with, whether I want to spend it all on a wedding or put all of it towards my student loans or something else. I spoke to Ryan about this and we agreed that I should put all of the money towards my student loans. Neither of us care about having a huge wedding, and we'd much rather get my debt paid off quickly so we could start saving for a house. My parents think this is a smart decision, and are happy I'm using the money sensibly. They also know I've never been someone who cared about having a fancy wedding, and always thought I'd use the money for something else. When I told Ryan's parents that we're going to do a courthouse wedding, my future mother-in-law Jan was upset. Jan said that my oldest sister had a beautiful wedding and asked why I didn't want the same. I explained the situation to her and that I'd rather put the money my parents set aside towards my loans and have a small celebration with our close family and friends. When I say small, I mean our parents, siblings, 1 or 2 close friends, and that's it. To be honest, if it was up to me, I'd just want it to be me and Ryan, but I think both of our families would be hurt by this, and so I want to include at least parents and siblings. Jan told Ryan and I that we were being selfish, since weddings are about uniting families and celebrating with loved ones, and we're putting our needs before that. She also said that we're both attorneys and aren't exactly struggling to pay the bills. She asked if we'd consider putting half of the money towards a ceremony and half of it towards my loans, and we said no. She then started saying that she had a ton of relatives who wanted to be included in the ceremony and will be disappointed that they don't get to see Ryan get married. Ryan told his mom she was being a hypocrite since she literally eloped and didn't include her family in the ceremony. Jan started crying and saying it was a huge mistake to not have her family there, and she didn't want Ryan to make the same mistake. I stepped in and told Jan that if she wanted to pay for a wedding where all of her relatives would be included, then Ryan and I would be happy to take her up on it. But the money would have to come from her since she's the one who cares about us having a large wedding. This upset Jan, and she told me that the woman's family is supposed to pay for the wedding. She said that it's selfish that 2 doctors wouldn't help with my student loans and also pay for a ceremony. This set me off since my parents have been extremely generous with me, including paying 100% of my undergrad tuition. I told Jan that my parents have worked hard for my sisters and I to have everything we needed growing up and to pay for our educations, and I don't feel right asking them to contribute to a fancy ceremony on top of everything they've already given me. Ryan was furious and told his mom that he doesn't want her at our wedding if she's going to act like this. We ended up leaving, and Ryan hadn't spoken to his mom since. I talked to my oldest sister, and she thinks I'm being selfish too. She says I should put some of the money towards a wedding and some of it towards my loans, so our families could enjoy the special occasion. But I've never wanted a big wedding, and I'm stressed about my loans, and just want them paid off. Ida?